Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today, which is all around iland Secure Cloud Backup. My name's Danielle Chapman. I work in the marketing team at Bytes, and today I'm really pleased to be joined by Sam Woodcock, Senior Director of Cloud Strategy at iland, and also Joe Hepburn, who is one of our data management specialists here at Bytes. So with that, I'm going to pass over to Joe Hepburn, who is just going to go through the agenda and provide a little bit of an intro.
Thanks, Danielle. Hi, guys. My name is Joe Hepburn. I'm a data management specialist here at Bytes. So I work as a sales specialist overlay to the account teams, and we look after any technologies that sit in the backup, disaster recovery, governance, analytics type space. Over the last 6 months, I would say we've seen a real adoption in Office 365, perhaps down to Corona, perhaps down to some other measures. But with that, we've seen a rush to market from a lot of backup vendors around the protection of Office 365. With that has kind of brought a mishmash of functionality, and from a Bytes perspective, we see iland as an absolute best of breed in terms of a SaaS-based platform for backing up your Office 365. So I won't take you through too many details because I don't want to tread on Sam's toes, but just to run through the agenda very quickly. Sam's going to give you a view on the importance of the backup strategy for Office 365, an overview of the iland Secure Cloud Console, the benefits to you as a customer, and then a bit of a live demo at the end to give you a bit of a look and feel of the iland platform. So with that, I'll hand over to Sam and let him go through the slides.
Thanks, Joe, and thanks, Danielle. And it's my pleasure to join everyone today, and good morning to the folks joining in. Thanks for your time as well. So I'm going to jump straight in. The reality is organizations like yourselves or other organizations are really turning to Microsoft 365. And the reasons they're doing that, and you're doing that, is really to streamline your employees' productivity, enable communication now in this new world of working from home, and allow that creation and collaboration that's really critical to your business to happen anywhere. So we see from our perspective, and I think you see yourselves as well, that there's widespread adoption in the market today. There's over 180 million 365 users, and actually if you look at the number of corporate employees using 365, it's 1 in 5, and that's only increasing. And as again your organization is leveraging 365, you see how critical it is to your business and how useful it is as well from a productivity perspective. And the reality that we find ourselves in today is that business critical data and business critical applications are no longer just in one place. As your organization moves or has moved to Office 365, your data has moved with it. And so if you look at this kind of page here, traditionally you may have had data on premises or still do have data on premises. You've got data in various cloud services. And again, from a software as a service perspective, things like Microsoft 365, your business critical data sits there alongside other different solutions. And so why I talk about that is it's important regardless of where your data resides, whether that's on premises, in the cloud, or in Microsoft 365, you really need a clear multi-layered data protection strategy. And that really involves protecting your data, preventing incidents that may impact loss of data and data integrity, and providing you as a business the ability to recover your data seamlessly. And this isn't just about technology. It's about technology, process, culture, and expertise, bringing those all together to provide you with the ability when you need it to bring your data back as well. So what are we talking about today? Obviously, as your organization adopts or is using Microsoft 365, what exactly does Microsoft Backup? And the good news, I guess, from a transparency perspective is Microsoft on their web pages and their documentation, there's a link here to their Trust Center, actually detail their shared responsibility model. And they make it clear to customers that they're primarily responsible for the global infrastructure uptime, the service itself, replicating between different geographical regions, providing some level of recycle bin or limited short-term recovery options. And they're providing also infrastructure level and regulatory requirements as well within their cloud. But they make it clear that it's your responsibility that whatever you house within their service, your Microsoft 365 data is under your control and under your responsibility, and that you should take action to back up that data to a different location, to a different provider, to provide the ability to recover when you need it. So they make it very clear that it's kind of a shared responsibility between you and Microsoft. And so if we look at the default retention policies for data within Microsoft 365. I think when we show this visual, a lot of folks are surprised by this. They kind of actually feel like that Microsoft are actually protecting their data for a lot longer period of time, and they're providing kind of data protection. The reality is different. So if you see this page, for example, an employee leaves the company after a month, that data is permanently deleted. A file in OneDrive, a business file is deleted. After 30 days, it's moved to a second stage prior to being deleted 3 months later. So there's lots of gaps in terms of what Microsoft provide in terms of retention within their cloud. And if you think about the average length of time that most organizations take to discover an issue, either they've lost some files or lost some emails, whatever it might be, is over 140 days. Yet the default settings that we see here really only protect data for 30 to 90 days. So by the time that you get to that issue, your data isn't there. Unless you have a best-in-breed data protection strategy, you could be in a situation where you can't recover data. And obviously that leaves your business in a bit of an issue. So we also understand that alongside those gaps and that responsibility that Microsoft made clear, there's a general need for any backup solution. And there's 5 reasons specifically why you should be looking at a 365 backup solution. The first one is malicious insiders, those employees that may wish to do your business harm, or departing employees. And these folks are generally people who have privileges to do damage. And privilege misuse is actually the second most prevalent cause of cybersecurity incidents. So imagine a case where one of these situations happens and they delete all of your OneDrive data. What is going to be the situation at that point in time? There's various external security threats. I don't think we need to remind anyone, but constantly we see in the news ransomware attacks. They're increasing year over year by huge percentages. And these things impact Microsoft 365 as well. So we need a strategy to prevent and naturally recover. We noted the recovery or the retention gaps within Microsoft 365 and the issues that causes if we find one of those. There's obviously legal and compliance pieces that your business needs to adhere to and make sure that if users request data or customers request data, that you can get access to that data and recover it and make sure that that's available. If we just take GDPR, obviously that was a big thing for the last number of years. There can be large fines for kind of incidents or things that you've kind of missed within that framework. So it's important again to be able to access your data wherever it needs to be, should it be deleted, for example. And obviously accidents always happen. It's a key thing here, right? Somebody may just accidentally delete some files or a structure or whatever it might be. And it's really something that happens pretty frequently. When we did a survey, which I'm going to be moving on to, 37% of 1,500 people actually had suffered a data loss incident due to accidental deletion. So this is pretty common. The other ones may be less common, but again, it's a strategy and a reason why you need kind of a backup and recovery option in place. So to my point just now, how often do these issues really happen? Back to that survey that we spoke about, and this was actually done by Veeam Software in 2019. The top item again was accidental deletion, but you can see 18% of people had suffered a security incident of some type. 19% were hit by the fact that they thought data was retained, but it wasn't actually, and obviously they needed it at that point in time. And there's some that kind of don't use a backup solution at all. So these issues really do happen, and again, we need to think about how we protect those items within Microsoft 365. So where does all of that leave you? What is the answer? Well, hopefully from today's webinar, I want to introduce our solution at iland, partner with Bytes, to provide a solution. And if we think back to what we just saw around the average time to discover an issue, you want to have a strategy to protect all of this data. So the good news is, from an iland perspective, we provide our secure cloud backup solution, and that's aiming to provide complete protection for Exchange, OneDrive, and SharePoint. We cover all services within the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. And what that looks like from our perspective is, as I'll delve into it, we perform daily backups of your data between the 365 cloud and iland, and we store that data indefinitely. So there's no kind of cap on the retention. So you could go back to data from 7 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever works for you. Or if you want to get something back from 24 hours ago, you have that flexibility. So we aim to cover all of these different scenarios and provide you with an option. So for the folks who may not have heard of iland before, I did want to give you a quick introduction to who we are and what we stand for. We've actually been in the industry for over 25 years in various different forms from an IT services perspective. But for the last 12 to 13 years, we've been focused on cloud and disaster recovery or data protection. We have a lot of expertise in this space, and we're actually distributed globally. So we have 11 different global data centers across the globe, including London, Manchester, and Amsterdam within this specific region. And you can choose any of these locations to back up your data to. So regardless of where your 365 data is, you pick the best location that works from a data regulation, connectivity, and business perspective. So again, you can pick any of these locations. And what we pride ourselves on is not only security and compliance, which I'll delve into, but one of the things we also do is we provide an 100% availability SLA for any of our services. And we also pride ourselves on providing 24/7, 365 support at no cost to our customers. You can get on the phone to a tier 2 technician. And from these statistics, we have kind of good ratings from our feedback from our customers. So we aim to help you not only from a design perspective when you first speak to us, but through to deployment and then on an ongoing basis to leverage the solution. We're really recognized and we have a lot of expertise as a leader in data protection. We've been doing this again for over 10 years, but for the last 4 or 5 years, you'll see here from a Gartner perspective, this is the Gartner Magic Quadrant for disaster recovery as a service, where we aim to protect virtualized workloads. We've actually been seen as a leader for the last 4 years, and you'll see we're actually at the top right of this quadrant. We've also been recognized by our partners, people like Veeam, as their impact partner or cloud service provider of the year, as well as innovation award winners for 3 years as well. So we have, again, a lot of expertise, a lot of experience bringing these services to market. And you only get this type of recognition when things work and we can kind of deliver on our promises. So again, hopefully this kind of gives you an indication of our experience in the market. And we really focus on 2 key areas at iland. Number 1 is data protection and disaster recovery. You'll see here the 365 solution that we're talking about today, but you'll also see backup as a service where we can protect your virtualized systems from VMware, Hyper-V, or any other hypervisor to our cloud environment. We also provide secure disaster recovery as a service, so you can fail over your virtualized workloads to iland and get up and running in a disaster, as well as object storage offerings where you can plug in any backup technology or any technology itself and leverage that as a storage location for your critical data. And we also power innovation. We have secure cloud hosting options, including infrastructure as a service, where we actually power mission critical systems on a daily basis for our customers. And really, we stand by and make sure that all of our services have security, compliance, connectivity, and that they're reliable and globally accessible. So today, we're going to be speaking specifically about 365, our secure cloud backup. And what we wanted to do is simplify the consumption of this service. So again, you're looking for a backup solution. You want it to be as simple as possible. So with our solution, we simply pay per user. And with that, you receive unlimited protection. There's no need to pay for anything else other than the number of users that you wish to back up. So for example, if you're a small organization, you simply want to back up 25, 50 users, you subscribe to 50 users, and that's all you pay for, no additional charges. So with that, we perform an automated daily backup every 24 hours. iland is taking care of that, so you don't have to manage the backups yourself. We're taking care of that and making sure that they happen successfully between 365 and iland. We again have that unlimited retention policy that I mentioned. So regardless of how long you want to store the data, that's available within iland. There's no storage fees or retention fees or anything like that. You can do that for however long you like. Again, unlimited storage with that. And we have multiple recovery options that I'm going to be running through about how you can get your data back into 365, which to me, from a backup perspective, the critical aspect is making sure that whatever backup solution you leverage can very seamlessly and easily bring back your data into the environment so that your users can keep running and keep being productive. A simple diagram here to show the topology. We've got the Microsoft 365 cloud on the left and iland on the right. You'll notice here that there's nothing to run on premises. You don't need to run anything at all. So that's the good news. It can be aligned to your cloud strategy, where you've moved your email and your OneDrive and your Sharepoint to the cloud. You don't want to be running anything on premises or elsewhere to run backups. You want it to be similar from a software as a service perspective. And so that's what we've done from the iland side. And so what we do is we perform the automated daily backup for all of these different services. And we again have unlimited retention, as well as unlimited encrypted storage to store that data in a secure manner. All of that data is actually transited in an encrypted state kind of position, so that as the data is transiting between clouds, again, security is top of mind. And then, as we're going to show you in the live demonstration, there's multiple recovery options, and our cloud console or cloud management interface allows you to powerfully search for items and then granularly restore items back straight to 365, again, without having to have anything on premises or in the cloud. So if we also delve into some of the key areas that we see customers looking for with any solution, obviously security and compliance top of mind. As I mentioned, in-flight and at-rest encryption, and we have over 20 compliance certifications and attestations at iland to make sure that your business can operate within our cloud environment. Again, we support you 24/7, 365 through from deployment into ongoing use. We have the 100% availability. We make sure that our service is always on so that we're accurately backing up your data at all times. And again, this is globally available, so you can pick the right location, again, to meet your business need. If we compare approaches, obviously, folks may be looking at various solutions in the marketplace today, but often folks are considering doing this themselves, whether they're doing it themselves on premises, doing it in one of the hyperscale providers or another cloud provider. And we wanted to compare the approach. Obviously, we need to focus on the outcome and achieving that outcome in the greatest possible time, reducing the time it takes to implement, the complexity and the cost. So with iland focusing on the outcome of complete protection of your 365 data, we achieve that, or you achieve that, by simply purchasing and selecting the users for backup. And we're done. We've achieved that outcome, and we can then restore data. With a DIY approach, we need to look at storage. We need to get the relevant storage repository, the compute infrastructure, firewall and security appliances, bandwidth. All of these different items, including the backup servers and proxies and licensing and monitoring and support, all of these things would be things, if you did it yourself, that you would have to manage, maintain, deploy, and support, and obviously that raises the cost. And if we think about the iland model of being able to simply consume per user and not have to worry about storage, in a DIY approach where you have to think about storage not only now, but how that's going to evolve over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, then you need to think about how you need to purchase additional storage going forward. So we really think we've simplified the approach, got to the outcome quicker, and enabled you to give you the functionality that you need. So if we look at some of those flexible recovery options, we've really built them for fast recovery. And I'm not going to go through every single one of these recovery options because there's over 25 different ways to recover your data back into the environment. But we can very simply and easily export any of the object types back into 365 directly. Also capabilities to actually save items as message files or PSTs if we just think about Exchange. And that's a really nice, useful one, because if you think about an HR kind of legal inquiry where you need to get access to an entire mailbox and you want to explore that or make it portable and give it to your HR team for that discovery work, you can simply download that PST, send it on to the HR team and let them do that exercise. So it's making it very easy to get the data back, compare what's missing, either restore a copy or restore overwriting the original copy in place. So this is Exchange. For SharePoint, we have a variety of options as well. Again, very similar, where we can restore straight back into SharePoint, or we can allow options for downloading zip files or individual files back locally as well. And again, you can restore any file to a prior version from our extensive archive of backups. OneDrive actually has a lot of different options in terms of how you can restore data back. Again, all of the ones that I just mentioned, but also the ability to kind of restore with custom attributes or custom access controls. Again, overwriting or not overwriting. All of these, again, are common themes that you'll get from a restoration perspective and are completely available to you to actually restore the data. So with that, that's a lot of talking, a lot of slides. I did want to focus on a live demonstration. Before I cut over, the demonstration is really of our Cloud Console interface. And we built this Cloud Console interface from the ground up to be addressable from both mobile and desktop devices. And it's the management interface across all iland's global services and all iland's global locations. So regardless of whether you use 365 backup from us or a combination of data protection solutions, as well as things like cloud hosting, from a single user interface, you can manage everything. There's no switching between different software or different graphical interfaces. It's all managed through one place. So we make it very seamless to consume for your user base. With that, I'm going to kind of come out of the presentation, going to slide across. I've actually opened a copy of the Cloud Console today. So here I am in Amsterdam, where I have Office 365 backups. If I actually go into the list, you can see that I have a variety of other products that I can step through, including our secure cloud hosting, our backups for on-premises environments or our object storage. All of these, again, you can simply click and manage those different solutions from this interface. You'll also see the location dashboard, where we see currently I have 365 backup in Amsterdam and Dallas. If I had a variety of services in different locations, again, we'd be able to very seamlessly and easily switch between those locations. In my specific location, which is Amsterdam, I'm going to run through a summary. So the first page is telling you how many licenses have I bought from iland. So in this case, I've got 50 licenses. And how many of those am I actually using? So today I'm backing up 7 of my users. So I do have some room to back up additional users. And again, it tells me I've got 43 left. So we get that visual overview to tell me kind of the situation. And you'll see the organization that we're protecting. So this would actually display multiple Microsoft 365 organizations if you do have that, and show you again the number of users, the number that are backed up, and the number that are licensed. It will also give you a quick summary of when we first backed up the data and when we last backed up the data. So you've got a quick at-a-glance view of kind of the current status. What we also do with all of our solutions is to kind of provide transparent pricing at all times. And it's also very kind of steady and predictable. You'll see my bill actually has been the same for the last 3 months within this test environment. But we get a very quick way to understand my monthly bill with iland and also the monthly license users. And over time, this will store data for the number of years. We'll see that number of users potentially go up and down, as well as the bill, and we'll be able to see that transparency. All of these graphs that I'm showing you can be exported very easily to an image or a PDF, so you can share this data with any team member who may be interested. Again, with all of the tables that I also showed, all of this data can be exported. And again, this is going to be a common theme that you see throughout the interface, is that everything we report on or provide you visibility into is exportable for auditing purposes, and we understand the importance of that to organizations. So if I step into my actual organization itself and see what's going on, we get a more detailed summary of that status. And you can see here, we again see the similar information to what we just saw, but we now see the different backup jobs that iland has set up for your organization. So we're performing a backup of your Exchange, your SharePoint, and your OneDrive. It tells me that I'm doing this on a daily basis, when it last ran, and when it's set next to run. So you can, again, make sure that this is happening to your liking and everything's working as you expect it. We can also see, again, success from that perspective. If we want to run a point-in-time backup, say, for example, we're going to be doing a lot of activity in 365, like adding and removing users or data or moving data around, before you do that work, it's a good idea to come into this interface and run a backup job. And by doing that, we can actually make sure that we have a point in time that's right for your business, that so if something were to go amiss, you can then restore data without losing as much data as going back to a point from 24 hours ago. So we do have the flexibility and the option for you to actually click and run a backup job at any time through the interface. As I'm going to show you as well, as we saw lots of different restore options, every time a restore is actually kicked off and somebody leverages the data in the cloud to perform a restoration, we log that action as well. So we see that we've done a few OneDrive restores. I did a few this morning. We've done a few Exchange restores. We see again whether they were successful. Again, this is really useful to making sure that this is being accessed by the relevant people and that we can show the success of the solution to the business if we wanted to do an audit as well. What we get down below as well is a detailed report on who's being backed up within your 365 environment, and more importantly, maybe who isn't being backed up. So again, we have a full audit trail, and this is a nice report that will give you the option, if somebody should be backed up and you're reporting as no, you can then seamlessly add them to the backup as well to make sure that that's happening. And all of these fields can be filtered, so again, you can find the information very easily. If we go into a specific job again, say for example, like Exchange, we again get a specific summary now around the status of my backup job. So again, we can see for the last 7 days or more, we've been successfully backing it up. It tells me the number of items that it transferred, and I imagine in your production environment, it's going to be way more than I'm doing in my demonstration environment today. But we also can see the log items, so we can see exactly what happened during that backup job and make sure we understand exactly the activity that's happening between 365 and iland as well. So again, this helps you understand the success of the iland solution. You can also make sure that you get a daily email reporting you anything that you need to be aware of as well to your inbox. Now, again, we can start a job or disable a job if we wish to. We can also create a restore session. What we do by this is we say, hey, iland's got the data in its cloud. I want to actually browse that data and find the item that I'm looking for. So if we choose Exchange, for example, we can decide to show items that might have been deleted. And you'll see this history of all of these 24-hourly points that we've taken. Again, we're storing 24-hourly points indefinitely within our platform. We can go back to August 13th, for example, create a restore session, and that will kick it off and mount that data in the cloud. So I'm going to let that do that. You can see that it's just appeared. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my previously kind of opened one I did earlier and look and explore the data. So within the session, now we've got access to the backup data. We can explore all of it within it. So you can see all of the users within Exchange that iland has backed up. So you can see Justin, you can see our product team, all of these options. And for example, if an entire user has been deleted from 365, you can easily view the detail and click restore. And within a simple click, you can get that user straight back into the environment. So very quick to get an entire user back into the environment itself. But if we look at maybe the product team, maybe it's something more specific, like a really important email or a calendar item or a contact that you really need. The iland Secure Cloud Console provides a full tree view of all of the objects within 365 itself. So if we look at the inbox, for example, we can navigate and see all of the emails within the iland products team's inbox. And there's a variety of different Microsoft notifications here that show me all of the contents that iland has backed up. So I'm going to kind of just go back to some more interesting emails. We've got actually some data in here from 2011 or 2001, sorry, where we can see all of the different information that's going back and forth between these users. And one of the examples I just wanted to show is there's an email here called Ranking Associates and Analysts for the financial year. Now, I don't know what that means, but I'm going to go ahead and actually go into my environment in 365 and search for that, as I've done earlier. And you can see that this is an email where somebody's asking them to do an assessment of their employees. Now, this might be really critical to the business. And what we're going to go ahead and do is say, Sam is a malicious insider. He's gone ahead and deleted the data. He's gone into the recycle bin and he's deleted that data. So now we don't have a copy of that email now, and maybe a query comes up when we need a copy. You can see it hasn't found it now. I've searched for it. Now, what we can do is we can go back and actually just simply click on that email, restore to Office 365. We type in the credentials to my environment, click restore, and within around 10 seconds, I think, last time I tried it, that email will go back straight into 365 and appear back in the inbox of that user. So if we go back in here and click a button, you'll see, again, it's back. So really quick and easy to get the critical data that you need back into 365. And the same is said for all of the services. Sharepoint, OneDrive, all of the data is available to explore very easily and get it back into the cloud environment. So OneDrive will simply show a list of users, list of files and folders, and again, we can kind of get that data back into the environment. So really easy. And again, the same for SharePoint. So you'll see a common theme there. So really, that was kind of a really quick overview of the functionality that we're deploying here. We've got more functionality coming as well in the very near future into this cloud interface. But what we're going to ask as well is if anybody's interested, we can do a much more in-depth demonstration later on. I did want to highlight just a couple more things before we finish the demonstration, which is number one, at all times you can contact our support team through our cloud console and get access and speak live to a technician, but we can also speak to them on the phone. We also have kind of global availability information through our cloud interface, so you can see the status and uptime of your service. One of the other things I did want to quickly mention as well is user management. So there's a lot of power and control there. You have the option to restore data back straight into 365, and you may want to limit that access to specific users in your organization. So within the iland Cloud Console, you can define the users who should have access to this console. So you can simply create new users very easily as an admin of this interface. You can also enable two-factor authentication so that we can make sure that they're secured when they're accessing this interface. And then we can define a role within the organization that they should have. So we, again, across all of our services globally, you can define custom role-based access. So if we just think about maybe Office 365 as the example, we may want to define a policy where we say, hey, this specific user should only be able to see OneDrive backup jobs. And if we customize the permission, I want them only to have read permissions. I don't want them to be able to actually kick off another backup job, for example. Or maybe I do, so I can create a custom policy and assign that to the user. Again, so we've got full role-based permissions across 365, object storage, disaster recovery, and cloud hosting as well. And with that, again, I'll kind of go back to the first point. This has been really a quick overview, but again, the power and the control and the visibility, again, we'd really encourage you to reach out so we can show you a little bit more in depth about how this works and how it can be useful. With that, I'm going to go straight back to my presentation, click into it, and we can go to the next slide. So as I mentioned, kind of concluding a little bit here, we really have a comprehensive data protection strategy at iland for organizations. As we saw the cloud interface, this isn't, again, not only a cloud interface and cloud platform for Office 365 backup, it's a cloud platform and interface for all of our other data protection solutions. So as a business, if you still have VMware-based workloads on premises, if you're still have those and you need to back up those systems, not just your 365 data, you want to achieve a 3-2-1 strategy and get your data offsite, you can achieve that multiple ways with iland. We have a service with Veeam called Veeam Cloud Connect, which we have our secure cloud backup solution. You can tie your virtualized environment to iland and offsite your backup data. And you can also do that straight to object storage if you're using another backup vendor, say a Rubrik or a Cohesity or another type of vendor. You can send that straight to our object storage for offsiting or archiving your data. And one of the best things that we're known for, again, is disaster recovery, where we can take a copy of your virtualized workloads, seamlessly send those across to iland in real time, and provide you with compute capacity, networking, and all the other things, security compliance, so that you can spin up your workloads at any time. Again, we feel that organizations should not only be looking at 365, but making sure that they have a strategy for data protection, again, regardless of where their data sits. And we try to make it easy to consume and manage through this single interface. I did want to throw up a quote here from a customer in the US called Benchmade Knife Company. They use our 365 service. We have a variety of case studies on iland's website for you to check out. But they were happy with the service. We helped them from end to end. And actually, they had an incident of accidental folder deletion. Thankfully, after they implemented this solution, and within 30 minutes, they were able to get that employee back and running and working for their business. So the reality is, this is all great, but we need to make sure that we're delivering. And it's great to see these case studies of customers who are actually getting value from this solution as well. With that, I think I've spoken a lot. I'd love to see, as I've been speaking, if there's been any questions. So I'll throw back to Danielle.
Thank you for that, Sam. That's great. So we have had a few questions come in. Just to say, guys, if you do have any, then just pop them in that box and we will get those answered for you. So I'll get going. Are shared mailboxes backed up?
Yeah, certainly. We definitely back up both user and shared mailboxes to the cloud. There's no difference there. We can make sure both of those are backed up.
Brilliant. And do I need to install anything on site?
No, that's the beauty. I mean, I think the reality is a lot of organizations moved to 365 because they didn't want to manage email or OneDrive or SharePoint locally. And they moved to the cloud because they saw the benefit of that operationally and technically. And so the same is said from the iland solution. We don't need you to run anything on premises to perform backups or perform restores at all with this option.
Brilliant. And has any organization had their Office 365 data crypto locked? Sorry.
Yeah, I think there's some really good examples, and maybe for the specific person who asked that question, we can follow up with you. But there's a number of examples on YouTube and other platforms where they show kind of simulated attacks using kind of those types of software pieces or other types of kind of attacks that are going to generally available and seen in the space today. As well as some real world stories as well from the field. So yeah, as I said right at the start, there's many reasons why you need a backup strategy. Number one is security, as we've just mentioned, but accidental deletion, as we saw, was a very common incident. So even if it isn't something like a crypto locker or a ransomware, the fact is that maybe there's going to be some accidental deletion in the future, and you really need something to be able to get that data back.
Brilliant, thank you, Sam. Does your disaster recovery differ from the offering from Microsoft or Azure?
Yeah, certainly. So, I mean, we've been, as I say, focused on disaster recovery as a service for over kind of 10 to 12 years. And we've been aligned to VMware specifically. We actually are in the top 1% of VMware-based cloud service providers globally. And we sit on the VMware Technical Advisory Council. So we have a very strong relationship with VMware. And why I'm talking about that is, if you think about your business, I'm pretty sure that most likely a lot of the attendees on the phone will be running VMware in some fashion on premises today for their virtualized workloads. And where we provide a great DR solution is we provide complete compatibility with what you're running on premises. Because we're 100% running the same software as you are, the systems that you choose to fail over in a disaster are going to be completely compatible and get up and running in our cloud environment. You can also transfer the skill sets and the knowledge you have internally to our cloud environment because, again, we align to the same technologies. When you look towards the hyperscale providers, the Azures and the AWSs, they're great platforms for test and development and new modern applications, but they're really not a good fit for running VMware systems because when those systems come up, they generally encounter issues like disk layouts or network adapter issues, things like that can really compromise your success in terms of disaster recovery. So we really encourage you to really align the right platform based on what technology you're running on premises, and iland's a great fit for that. And again, just the final point I'd make on that is we do things like embed security and compliance and networking by default into our platform. So you don't have to think about those things after the fact. With those options in the marketplace today, the other options, you have to add on all those things and they cost money and time as well.
Perfect, thank you. And keeping it on a sort of Microsoft level, is there any indication that Microsoft will develop backup services natively within 365 as an enhanced service offering?
I think personally, obviously, I haven't got a crystal ball. I wish I did. I'd probably do a lot if I had a crystal ball, hopefully win the lottery, things like that. But I would expect from that side, I think they've made it very clear that they're specialists in infrastructure. They're specialists in what they deliver. They're really not specialists in terms of data protection, or that's not something that really is making them their value in the marketplace today. So I think it's been a situation that's been in place for actually a number of years. I personally don't think it's going to be something that they're going to add in the near future, but again, I don't have a crystal ball. But I think in the interim, it's always good to look to a solution. Obviously, you need something today. And the second thing I'd say is by looking at a solution provider like iland or another provider, they're providing you resilience at a company level. So for example, if something impacts the availability of the 365 platform, it's good to have your data housed within a completely separated geographical location, but also a separate company, separate infrastructure, separate processes, because it's highly unlikely that an issue would occur in both providers, for example. So I think it's good to have your eggs in different baskets.
Brilliant, that's great, Sam, thank you. Can you restore just permissions in SharePoint Online rather than data?
Yeah, so I think we'd love to delve into that one. I think a little bit more detail with you, the folks who asked that question. But definitely, when we restore objects into the environment, we retain permissions and all the settings and things like that. So I'd like to maybe take that one offline, jump on and speak to you about that specific question, so I understand it a little bit more, and we can definitely get that one answered for you.
Brilliant, and we've got another one as well, which is, can you fully restore a Microsoft team, or is this limited to the current Veeam? I don't know whether that one wants to be taken offline as well.
Yeah, so we definitely back up Teams data. It's housed within the wider services, so we can restore it as part of that. But again, I think that's one where we would probably want to just get on the call with you, have a follow-up. We can do a more extensive kind of talk through of this service, and we can get more into that detail, because there are a few things that you would need to do within the solution, but it's definitely something you can restore.
That's great, thank you, Sam. So I think we'll leave it there today for all the questions, but anything else, as I mentioned earlier, if you do think of anything, just pop it in the survey at the end, or alternatively, you can email us at tellmemore@bytes.co.uk.
Great, so I think maybe the final thing from me before I hand back to you would be, I know that we've been running a prize draw for this. There's 3 £65 vouchers to win. I think watch out for an email from Bytes regarding for the folks who kind of made it this far. And I really appreciate everyone making it this far to see what I've had to say. Hopefully it's been useful. Hopefully you'd like to hear a little bit more. But by kind of get to this point where the prize draw obviously will happen, and watch out for an email from Bytes. But Danielle, I'll maybe hand back to you just to close off the webinar. Again, thank you for everyone's time from my side.
Brilliant. Yeah, I was just going to say thank you so much, Sam, and thank you for Joe for speaking at the beginning as well. Thank you everyone for joining. And yeah, like I said, if you wouldn't mind just spending a minute just filling out our survey at the end, that would be really helpful to us. But yeah, that's where I'm just going to leave it. So I hope everyone has a lovely rest of the day.
Great, thank you. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, Sam. Bye.